Alright, in the second jewelry findings video, we're going to talk about how you can trap a bead and how you can also wrap wire to make closure. So for instance, trapping a bead, I have two examples here. This is an earring, and if you look, there are beads stuck on this wire, and at the very end there's a loop, and that's how they stay on, just by having the two loops at the two ends. And at the bottom one, you can see that too. So one example, earrings. This example, this is a pendant. It's got a ceramic bead here, and you can see the wire that's trapping it, and then this one in the center. So once again, we've got those loops. Then the examples for wrapping wire. This is how you can close off necklaces. So the most traditional, if I look at my pendant here, at the back we have a loop and the wire, and then we have the lobster claw attaching to it. So this is just a nice way to kind of conclude your jewelry. It makes it really strong, and it also visually connects to the front of it. Here's just an alternative way. This person did their wrapping at the front, so they actually don't have any detail at the back. It's kind of a decorative detail. And then the final example, if you're doing something a lot bigger, like this is a very heavy pendant, lots of thread, they did some wire wrapping up at the front, and then they also did it at the back to hold on to, they've got S hooks here, and they've got a little bit of chain, and then on the other side there is a lobster claw too. Alright, so let's talk about trapping a bead. So the way that you do it, take a piece of your wire, we snip it off, we take and create a loop at one side. Okay, now this loop is leaning off to the side. If I want to, I can get it to stand straight up again, and this would be by grabbing it in the back and turning slightly. And then I would just thread my bead on, which, silly me, I forgot to grab a bead for this. We're just going to pretend. I would put my bead on here, so it would take up a little bit of space, just like you see with this one. And then on the other side, I would close my loop off. Same thing, if I wanted to stand up straight, I would grab it right back here and turn it, and now if I had a bead there, it would be trapped. So you get the idea. Next one is how you wrap around your thread. This is the most challenging one by far. It takes a little bit of practice. So we start with our piece of thread, and the first time through it's really helpful to have an extra set of hands, so either taping down your thread or asking a buddy to be your assistant. Sometimes wire cutters do not work well for thread, as I'm illustrating here. So instead I'm going to grab a fresh piece of thread, and now I will make a little bit of a loop with it. Imagine typically when you'd be working on this, you'd be working with a long piece of thread, and this would be a small loop at the back, but I'm just showing you an example, so I just have this small piece. So I could take and tape this part down just so it's kind of out of the way for myself, and I think I will do that. I'm going to use the thinnest thread I can, or thinnest wire I can find for this. That way it makes it a lot easier to wrap around. And I'm using masking tape to hold this down. Okay, so crossing them, so I have my loop, and I'm just putting that over the loop so it stays. Down here is where I'm going to attach my wire. So I'm going to put the wire underneath it, leaving some on one side, some on the other. I'm going to start by crossing it. We're trying to make a really tight loop that closes it off. Okay, now that I have that first loop, I'm taking my tape off. Now it's good to grab your flat pliers, and I'm going to hold the shorter piece and the seam here. So basically covering up that first loop that I did and kind of holding the handle part. And now I will wrap around tightly with the rest of my wire, trying to keep it as neat and tight as possible. Alright, at this point I have about 4 loops. I feel pretty confident in what I have here on screen. So all of this extra would get cut off, including some of my beginning ones that I didn't like. Snip them off, and then I have a really nice tight loop that's finished and ready to attach to your sheet. Or if you were doing this for real, it would be an excellent back to finish off a really nice project.